Get business done with the new American Express Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card. With unlimited 2% cash back on all eligible purchases, unlimited 5% cash back on flights and prepaid hotels booked through American Express Travel Online, and a flexible spending capacity that can grow with your business, you'll have the confidence to keep building. Apply today and earn a welcome offer of $1,500 cash back after you spend $50,000 in qualifying purchases on your new card within the first 6 months of card membership. Terms apply. Learn more at go.amex/graphite.
Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
If you could give every pet owner one longevity lever that they could pull this week that would guarantee to add years to their animal's life, what would that be? Would it be feeding them less, or is there something else?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, across species lines and across body weights, feeding less will always increase your pet's life. Now, we can subdivide that, and I could talk more about large pets versus small pets, because large pets, Jonathan, large dogs are more prone to orthopedic disease and, interestingly, more prone to allergies. Small dogs are prone, and cats are more prone to dental disease and heart issues. And so there are lesser levers for you and me to pull, depending upon the demographic of your pet. But if you're looking for the cheapest and the most general approach to longevity, let's all eat a little bit less and live a little bit longer.
This is Jonathan Marx from GoToHealth. I hope you're having a great day. You know, we've completed about 300 episodes on evidence-based medicine for humans, and I really appreciate all the interest we've had in our shows. But I know many of us are pet owners, and I'll bet you might be interested in evidence-based medicine for your pet. Many of us are on our own journey to increase longevity, and I'll bet that you'd like to optimize the longevity for your co-pilot, your pet. We've got a fascinating visitor to be with us today. His name is Dr. Kevin Toman. He's a doctor of veterinary medicine, and he's the founder of Helping Pets Live Longer, and is one of veterinary medicine's most vocal advocates for longevity-first care. His website is Helping Pets Live Longer. And if you stay to the end of the show, we've got a special offer for how you can get a free longevity consult for your pet. If you haven't subscribed to us, please do so on YouTube or Apple or Spotify, wherever you're listening to us. You can also do it at our website at gotohealthmedia.com. And if you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review. That helps us get the word out to more people. Thanks in advance. So welcome to the show, Kevin Toman DVM, which is a doctor of veterinary medicine. How are you today?
I'm just fine, Jonathan. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time and the knowledge that you put into this podcast.
Great. Good. So, Dr. Kevin, you've said that veterinary medicine is 20 years behind human longevity science, yet our pets age 7 times faster than we do. Why is the industry just so slow when our pets are really running out of time? What's going on here?
Well, that question has a couple different answers to it. And the honest truth, Jonathan, is that I believe that veterinary medicine, as it's practiced today, is broken. Why is that? Well, one of the primary reasons, Jonathan, is that there's been this huge influx of corporate ownership into veterinary practices. Back when I graduated in the dark ages of 1986, every veterinary clinic was owned by an individual, you, me, husband and wife, or whatever the case may be. And now almost 2/3 of veterinary practices and the vast majority, the 75 or 80% of specialty practices are in fact owned not by individual veterinarians, but by corporate acquirers like the Mars company, the same folks that make Mars candy bars for you and me. It is actually the single biggest owner of veterinary practices worldwide. And we can talk more about that if you wish. But the upshot of that, Jonathan, is this. They bring new graduate veterinarians fresh out of school into a corporate job. They pay them based on with about $100,000 base day in and day out, but then 21 to 24% of the profit they make for the practice And so I will tell you quite clearly that these veterinarians who are essentially being paid on a commission basis do not have your pet's best interests at heart. More to the point, they don't have the knowledge centered around longevity, and they don't have the time to deliver that knowledge because, again, these corporate employers mandate a 15 to 20-minute office visit. And the reality is, Jonathan, that gives us enough time to deal with an immediate problem. Veterinarians are great in reactive stances where we're sewing up a cut or lancing an abscess or whatever the case may be. But in 15 or 20 minutes time, the veterinary population just simply can't sit down and talk with you, not just about the next 2 weeks, but about the next 2 years, the next 5 years, the next decade of your pet's life. And that's what I enjoy so much about the consult practice that I have built.
Are veterinarians trained in longevity medicine for pets?
No, they aren't, sir. No, they aren't. When you and I go through veterinary school, we're trained very classically. You start with the biochemistries, the chemistries, the physics, etc., and you progress through infectious diseases and occasional spays and neuters and the like, but you have zero training in longevity science. And that's a differentiator for me because, listen, I'm 66 years old and I can speak very directly to the path that I have followed to get to the point where I'm kind of intermingling veterinary medicine with longevity science. But when you're fresh out of school, longevity science is a foreign concept to you.
Good. So let's talk a little bit about this. So most vets wait for a pet to get sick before they run labs. But you call
Absolutely.
that a failure of the system. What kind of silent markers are there in a dog or a cat that a standard vet misses, but that a longevity first vet catches? What are we looking for here?
Well, the simplest approach is let's talk about blood and urine tests here. And I'll speak very directly to one, for instance, a cat problem known as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, Jonathan. And this is a fatal disease. It's a progressive disease that will affect 1 out of 6 cats worldwide. And traditionally, a schmo like me in a clinical setting had to rely, these were cats that you found incidentally. When you brought your cat in for a physical examination, I put a stethoscope up in my ears and heard this whopping murmur in your cat's chest. And now, as an example, we have early warning systems. We have a blood test known as proBNP that actually measures the stress of your kitty's heart. And that's the very first thing that changes here, a murmur. And whenever you and I are dealing with a progressive disease, Jonathan, like HCM, that early detection counts. If you and I can begin treating a kitty before the disease becomes clinical, they will live longer than a cat whose treatment begins after the disease becomes a clinical problem for us.
So that's one example of a disease in a cat, but can you talk more generally about how a longevity vet catches diseases before they show up? What are we looking for here? What kind of tests do you run?
Sure.
Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, the first thing I'm going to point out is that I work in concert with local veterinarians, not in place of local veterinarians. But with that being said, the model that I recommend, Jonathan, is closely aligned to the functional health movement on the human side, where instead of waiting for a problem to develop and then drawing blood work or urinalysis or taking x-rays in an effort to better understand that problem, now science has advanced to the point where you and I can use blood and urine panels early in the game. And I would point to the 30 or the 35-year-old humans that are starting to understand the benefits of functional health, of early testing. And so if you and I were to draw a parallel, I think there is absolute logic to beginning to check our kitties and our dogs at 4 to 5 years of age with comprehensive blood and urine tests that allow us to look at trends, not just abnormalities, because abnormalities are late in the game. But if you and I can see a trend line increasing over a period of 6 months or 8 months or 10 months, then all of a sudden that tells us that this is a real problem. And our goal is to bend that curve. Our goal is to prevent or at least push that developing problem as far out as possible.
Got it. Now, you're also bringing human drugs into pet medicine, like rapamycin and metformin for pets. I've never heard of this. How are these medicines appropriate for pets?
Yeah, so the 3 pharmaceuticals that we rely upon are rapamycin, acarbose, and metformin. And the metformin that you've spoken about is really probably the least of those 3. And here's why, from a very practical experience. It can create an upset stomach in most dogs or most cats. But when I look at the drugs rapamycin and acarbose, for instance, these are drugs that have been proven in other mammal species, including man, to improve lifespan by up to 14% in the case of rapamycin, and by an additional 5 to 7% in the case of acarbose. But here's the deal with acarbose. It only works in males. And so, to make a long story short, rapamycin can increase lifespan by up to 14% by doing three different things. It supports heart function, it reduces cancer incidence, Jonathan, and it reduces inflammation. And each one of those has broad longevity benefits. Acarbose acts a little bit differently. It simply drops our blood sugar. And in both humans and pets, there are clear correlations between high blood sugar and a shortened life.
Got it. Okay. Boy, human medicines for pets. I hadn't thought about that. But you're telling me, I guess, in the development of these medicines, animals are used in some cases.
Exactly. Exactly correct. And the frustrating part for you and me both is that, listen, there will never be a primary longevity study done with different drug interventions in pets. The closest thing that we have going on right now, Jonathan, is a project called the Dog Aging Project, which is now 4 years into a planned 10-year study arc. And the goal there is to determine the exact benefits of rapamycin for these dogs as they go through their life, but also to mimic the aging of humans, because the transition that dogs go through and from 1 year to 10 years of their life is in round figures very similar to the changes that you and I go through from birth or from 10 years of age to
Sure.
70 years of age. And so the hope is that by studying these dogs in the Dog Aging Project, we can apply what Dr. Kaberlin and friends learn to the longevity science of humans as well.
Great. Let's talk a little bit about pet supplements. This is apparently $1 billion industry, but you've really called it kind of a supplement trifecta of failure. Tell us what's going wrong there.
Yeah, well, realistically, the unfortunate truth is that marketing drives the vast majority of supplement sales here in the United States. Again, whether your patient walks on two legs or four. And I'm going to suggest that science has disproven many of the supplements that are commercially available on the market for both pets and for humans. In particular, I would point out that science has absolutely disproven the benefits of glucosamine and chondroitin for the treatment of joint inflammation and pain in
Hmm.
both pets and humans. Another red herring is resveratrol, which is the old red wine paradox. And nobody has ever been able to duplicate the original benefits that were suggested, 20 years ago by the folks at Harvard.
Sure.
And so the unfortunate truth is that if you and I, Jonathan, were to walk down the aisle of any local Costco or any local Rite Aid, we would see shelf after shelf lined with glucosamine and chondroitin products and the occasional resveratrol product thrown in. But the reality is, again, these products have been disproven. These products don't work to help us. And so one of the goals in my practice is to use supplements almost as though they were prescription medications. A Chihuahua would not be given the same supplements as a Golden Retriever, and that Golden Retriever would not take the same supplements as a Mastiff. The reality is that supplement use, whether you walk on two legs or four, ought to be dictated by your genetics, by the lifestyle you lead, and by the health issues that you're trying to treat. And that customized approach is not a common one in either human medicine or in veterinary medicine, and I'm trying to change that.
So what I'm hearing you say is that supplements should really be a result of a veterinary visit rather than a walk down the store aisle.
I would respectfully broaden that definition and say that, sure, medical visit or veterinary visit is always a great start to supplement choice. But failing that, the other approach is just to go ahead and spend the time to research these products. Don't rely on just a late night commercial or your friends having used this product. Do the research on PubMed, do the research on Google Scholar, do the research on ChatGPT or Claude or your AI platform of choice. But if you look at at supplement products from a fact-based perspective, many times your choice will change dramatically from the supplement choices that are espoused by late night TV.
So, pets get cancer. I've been through that with my pet. If a pet parent has a pet that's been diagnosed with cancer, what are the first things they should be doing to deal with this, aside from their upset and their panic?
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, it's hard when you're speaking of the word cancer. When you mention the word cancer, it's hard to get past the upset and the panic. The first thing to do is to do the research. We need to understand to separate emotion from facts because virtually every cancer has a clear path of treatment at this point in time. Now, I freely admit that not every cancer treatment is going to be effective, but our goal, if we can't solve this cancer issue, our goal is to buy your pet as long and as happy a life as possible. And so critical to that journey is finding somebody to guide you on that journey. And here's another problem with veterinary medicine, Jonathan. That is that in the United States, there are fewer than 300 cancer specialists spread across the United States. And most of those specialists are centered around veterinary universities or, rightfully or wrongfully, along the coasts of the country. And so I'll speak to Montana very directly because I'm helping a little dog with lymphoma up there. There is exactly one cancer specialist in the state of Montana for pets. And to get an appointment with that specialist takes between 3 and 4 months. Well, I'm going to submit to you that the last thing a pet who has been diagnosed with cancer needs is a 3 to 4 month delay to treatment.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's one of the pillars, so to speak, of my little Helping Pets Live Longer project is that I work with pet owners whose pets have been diagnosed with cancer to determine not just a course of action based on 40 years of veterinary practice, but also, I have a list of 7 oncologists in my private little network here that I've built up over the years that enable me to give them a call and to get answers from them within a 24 or 36-hour period. Wow. And so the hard part is that doesn't always translate to treatment, but it translates to knowledge that will hopefully allow a pet parent in that Montana or in Maine or one of these other states that is relatively less served by specialists to work with their local veterinarian and optimize their pet's journey.
Hey all, Jonathan from GoToHealth. Let me ask, how do you sustain your energy throughout the day? I try to do it with the morning cup of coffee and then one in the afternoon as a pick-me-up, and of course my daily vitamins. But what if I told you I was trying something new that's working for me just great? It provides me with sustained energy and focus, with caffeine for alertness but balanced by amino acids and taurine to prevent jitters or crashes. It also has a blend of B vitamins, L-carnitine, and choline to power my energy and mental clarity even if I didn't get the best night's sleep. It's also packed with vitamins A, C, and E to support my immune health, even with my days of packed schedules. And it's sugar-free and what I'll call flavor-forward. I alternate between 3 delicious flavors, mandarin orange, mango strawberry, and fruit punch. Just 1 small scoop of mix in 8 ounces of water and I'm done. Boom, off to the races. This formula boasts 32 years of brand expertise and thousands of 5-star reviews from millions of users. And it's a woman-owned company. What's this product I'm yakking about? It's called Spark Energy Plus Focus from Advocare. Spark Energy Plus Focus. For GoToHealth listeners, I've scored 30% off and free shipping. Go to drinkspark.com and use code GoToHealth at checkout. That's code GoToHealth at drinkspark.com. Let's tackle the day together with Spark Energy Plus Focus. Great. It's so upsetting to get that kind of diagnosis in your pet. I've been through that, and believe me, I sympathize. So, there's an obesity epidemic in the United States, and I think, is that true also in pets? Are we loving our pets really a little bit too much with the food we give them and too much and not keeping them trim?
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, Jonathan. In fact, across species lines, whether you and I are discussing elephants or fish, mice or monkeys, humans or dogs, the reality is the one thing we know, if you're trying to optimize for longevity, the first thing you should think of is calorie restriction. The fewer calories you and I eat, and typically in a more time compressed fashion, the longer we will live. And this was proven out in spades by a study done by the Purina Company about 15 years ago. And in this particular study, they looked at Labrador Retriever litters, and they divided these litters into half, Jonathan. So 8 puppy litters got divided into 2 cohorts of 4. And on the one side, they fed the Labrador puppies as much as they wanted to eat every day, all day long. On the other side, the other half of the litter, they fed it 75% of maintenance. And then they followed these dogs. The protocols never changed. So one group of puppies was significantly thinner than the other. And they followed these dogs through their whole life. Same vaccines, same food, just different quantities of it, same housing, same people. And what they found is that the thinner puppies, Jonathan, lived 1.8 years longer than the fatter puppies did without any other intervention. So at least in my line of work, that's proof positive that centers around the whole concept of calorie restriction and longevity benefits. Now, interestingly, I'll tell you another quick story, and then I will, in fact, stand down off my soapbox. But I was in clinical practice for about 35 years, and 10 or 15 years ago was the heyday of the human weight loss shows on TV, The Biggest Loser
Right.
and the like. And so I thought, Jonathan, what a hell of a marketing opportunity. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put on my own clinic's Biggest Loser competition. So I sent out an email to 5,500 clients saying, listen, the winner of this contest will get $500 in veterinary services and and local publicity. Do you know I sent out 5,500 emails, and how many responses I got from pet parents who thought their dogs were obese? 0. Not one.
Interesting.
Not one.
Interesting.
And so the unfortunate truth, I think, is that there's whether it be a shame component, whether it be self-image issue, the reality is that obesity is the single largest problem in both veterinary medicine and human medicine. And I guess the last point I would make is, Jonathan, it's very easy for me to spend $300 or $400 a month of your money when it comes to specialized longevity drugs and consults and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you that one of the most effective ways to increase your pet's lifespan actually saves you money? And that's simply feeding less.
Wow. So speaking of that, if you could give every pet owner one longevity lever that they could pull this week that would guarantee to add years to their animal's life, what would that be? Would it be feeding them less, or is there something else?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, across species lines and across body weights, feeding less will always increase your pet's life. Now, we can subdivide that, and I could talk more about large pets versus small pets, because large pets, Jonathan, large dogs are more prone to orthopedic disease and, interestingly, more prone to allergies. Small dogs are prone, and cats are more prone to dental disease and heart issues. And so there are lesser levers for you and me to pull, depending upon the demographic of your pet. But if you're looking for the cheapest and the most general approach to longevity, let's all eat a little bit less and live a little bit longer.
Good. Now, you have a great website, which I visited. It's called helpingpetslivelonger.com. Let me repeat that. It's helpingpetslivelonger.com. When we visit that, what will people see?
They will see the latest in information on their pet's longevity, ranging from free reports on the most common health issues, like the heart disease that I've spoken about in pets, like arthritic management, like early cancer diagnosis, to hit on some of the topics that you and I have already discussed. They will see links to supplements that have been proven by 40 years in veterinary practice and by studies in PubMed. They will go ahead and see links to prescription longevity drugs like rapamycin for dogs and cats, like the acarbose that we've spoken about, and sometimes to the metformin. And lastly, they will find a variety of different consult approaches that are available that enabled me and them to work together as partners in helping their pets live longer.
Good. Now, is all this evidence-based? Because this is the main thrust of our show, is to really provide evidence-based facts. Is this evidence-based medicine for pets that you're sharing?
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And, our pets' lives are too important to trust in marketing principles. And so every product that I sell, listen, I only sell 15 or 16 supplements as an example. but I can tell you exactly why I carry each one of them and whether that supplement will benefit your pet or not. As a veterinarian with 35 plus years in clinical practice, I'm going to tell you that there's nothing more important than a pet parent being able to trust what a veterinarian says. And your pet parents, your listeners can trust what I say.
Good. And you see people virtually, obviously,
Yes, I do.
from
Yes,
all
I
around the
do.
country. You can give them good advice and guidance from around the country. Is that right?
Yes, I can. And that extends up into Canada, it extends to the UK, and every once in a while to the EU as well. We're all in this together, Jonathan, regardless of where you live. Who doesn't want our pets to live longer?
Good. How do you help diagnose a pet virtually? I mean, do you have to see them on a screen or a Zoom meeting, or how do you really do a visit with a pet?
Well, this is where, as I mentioned, the reality is that a longevity exam and a longevity strategy ought to be based as a loose partnership amongst three different people. One is the pet parent themselves, one is my services as a longevity-centric vet, and the third component is actually your local veterinarian,
Ah,
because there are things that your local veterinarian absolutely has to do. At this point, we have no other recourse other than to ask your veterinarian for help in drawing these blood, drawing the urine samples. One of the things that I alluded to earlier as another example of local veterinary care, Jonathan, is the for small dogs and cats. The second most important longevity lever is actually, believe it or not, dental health,
hmm.
because small dogs and cats are very prone to periodontal disease, which has been proven in humans to reduce lifespan by up to 15%.
Hmm.
And the only way that this can be solved, Jonathan, is with anesthesia and then x-rays of every tooth in your pet's body. And that's clearly the domain of a local veterinarian. And
Right.
so, although I didn't approach this topic smoothly, the reality is that there's absolutely a partnership in place where your local veterinarian can provide the early diagnostic tests that you and I need to maximize our pet's lifespan. They can provide the dental care that is so important for these small dogs and cats. And they can provide the judicious, and I emphasize the word judicious, use of vaccines.
So let me ask what might be a delicate question. Are local veterinarians open to working with you on a virtual basis? Is there resistance? What's been your experience? Are they open to your input?
That's a legitimate question. Yeah, because veterinarians like me, we're prideful people, I guess. So I'm going to tell you that about three-quarters, Jonathan, welcome the opportunity to work with a longevity-centric veterinarian, because the honest truth is that their clients are asking questions that they are not equipped to answer. And their clients are demanding time that they simply do not have when you're in general practice. And
Got it.
I have both those knowledge, that knowledge and the time to devote to those longevity questions to help pets live longer. And so I honestly believe that, again, two-thirds to three-quarters of veterinarians welcome that opportunity to collaborate, because whether you walk on two legs or four, the optimal healthcare should be a collaborative effort.
So we've got a great offer for you folks who are listening to us today. The doctor is offering a free longevity consult with your pet. And this is primarily focused on cats and dogs, correct? We're not talking about
Yes,
birds
sir.
or elephants or snakes, but this is
Yes, sir.
cats and
My
dogs.
expertise goes to cats and dogs. Beyond that, you and I are grasping at straws.
Okay, good. So you can get a free longevity consult, and the way you get that is by going to freevetcall.com. Freevetcall.com. That's very generous of you to offer that, doctor. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. And the reality is, again, after 40 years in the trenches of veterinary medicine, I'm very definitely in a mode right now where I can give back to the veterinary community and I can give back to pet parents. We are all in this together. Who doesn't want their pet to live longer? And my freevetcall.com website is the least of what I can do to help.
Good. Are there any questions that I didn't ask that I should have, or is there a big message you'd like to leave with people today, doctor?
You've done a great job, Jonathan. I thank you very much for all your time and all your knowledge. As an aside, I'm tiptoeing into the podcasting world myself, and so I'm very aware of the work that goes on behind the scenes. And
Yes.
so your listeners are lucky to have you in their corner. You provide a tremendous resource. I've listened to a number of different podcasts, and every time I do, I learn something. But I guess the thing that I would suggest to pet parents is that There are many ways to help your pets live longer. Don't be put off when we start talking about testing or diagnostics or prescription longevity drugs. Simple things like the dietary changes you and I have spoken about, dietary quality, minimizing the jumping for your pets, minimizing their slips and falls if you have hardwood or tile floors. These are all things that can be done for pennies that will help your dogs and your cats live longer.
Great. Thanks so much for being with us today, Doctor. It's been really wonderful having you. And I know this is going to be very valuable to our listeners because many of us own pets.
Thank you again, Jonathan, for your time.
Good. We've been talking with Dr. Kevin Toman DVM. That's a doctor of veterinary medicine. He's a veteran small animal veterinarian. He's the founder of Helping Pets Live Longer at helpingpetslivelonger.com. And he's one of veterinary medicine's most vocal advocates for longevity first care. You can find him again at helpingpetslivelonger.com, and you can get a free longevity consult when you visit freevetcall.com. Thanks again for being with us, Kevin.
Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. Bye.
Good. This has been Jonathan Marx. Remember, subscribe to us so you can learn more about the shows we have. We have almost 300 shows we've done, 300 interviews. You can watch us on our website at GoToHealthMedia.com. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on 8 podcast networks. And if you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review. That helps get the word out to more people. This has been Jonathan Marx with GoToHealth. I'm so glad we're talking about pet health today. But as we say at the end of every show, and there's a pet right there. I love it. Good. That's a great way
I apologize.
No worries. That's a perfect way to end this interview. Good. This has been Jonathan Marx with GoToHealth. And as we say at the end of every show, go to health. God bless. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye now.
Thank you for tuning in today to Go to Health. You are one of almost 10,000 people per day who enjoy the evidence-based health information offered by our guest health experts. You can watch us on our website and YouTube and listen to us on 8 podcast networks. Be sure to join Jonathan Marx in our upcoming shows each week. If you like our show, please share this episode with your friends and colleagues. You can subscribe to the show, join our email list, send us feedback, browse through the online store, and view our library of over 150 shows at GoToHealthMedia.com. See you next time, and remember to elevate your life with Go to Health.